Every single year, like thousands of brilliant international students just end up dropping out of global universities. And what is wild is that they don't drop out because they aren't smart enough.
Right, or because they can't handle the academics.
Exactly. Or because the coursework is too hard. They drop out because they couldn't figure out how to fill out some local regional registration form, or they couldn't get a bank account.
Yeah, the bureaucracy of it all.
Yeah, and the anxiety of a visa renewal completely breaks them. So today, we are looking at one university that realized the biggest barrier to a 4.0 GPA isn't the curriculum. It is actually the airport.
It really is a massive institutional blind spot. I mean, if you look at the global education market today, the standard operating procedure is just highly, highly transactional.
Totally.
They accept your tuition fee, they send out this automated welcome email with a link to some, clunky student portal, and then they essentially just leave the student to figure out their survival on their own.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we are doing a deep dive today into this really exclusive profile interview from May 2026.
Such a good piece.
It really is. It's an interview with Professor Sharada Alamneni, and she is the Dean of International Students Affairs at the VFSTR School of Management Studies in Andhra Pradesh, India.
Right.
And they're completely flipping this transactional script we just talked about.
Yeah.
To me, the best way to look at this is through the lens of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but applied to corporate education.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Yeah, like you cannot reach self-actualization, which in this case means acing a really complex global finance module or, landing a multinational job. You can't do that if your basic safety and physiological needs are basically on fire.
That is a perfect framework for what is happening here, honestly. VFSTR's underlying philosophy is that institutional care has to start the exact moment a student says yes to their acceptance offer.
Right, not weeks later.
Exactly. Not when they finally manage to drag their suitcases onto the campus grass. They are treating these students with this hyper-scaffolded, deeply personal approach. It's really unique.
And I want to tell you, listening right now, whether you are a corporate manager managing a remote global team, or maybe you're trying to figure out how to onboard new hires without losing them in that critical first month.
Yeah, which is so common.
Or even if you're just someone fascinated by how organizations build culture. Stick around, because there's an absolute masterclass in empathy and operational excellence hidden in how this university operates.
It truly is a masterclass. And, to understand how they actually execute this in the real world, we need to follow the chronological timeline of a student's journey.
Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, we have to start with the immediate aftermath of that acceptance letter, because the moment a student is accepted, VFSTR initiates what they call their 48-hour rule.
Okay, right. I saw that in the source material.
Yeah.
What exactly does that 48-hour rule look like in practice? Because it sounds intense.
It is, but in a good way. So imagine you are sitting in Nairobi or Kabul or Sanetta, and you get your acceptance notification. Within 2 days, a dedicated team member from the university contacts you personally.
Wow, personally?
Yeah.
Like a real person?
Yes, not a form email from some do not reply address. It is a direct call or a personalized message, and they actually do it in your preferred language whenever possible.
Oh, that's a huge detail.
Huge. And the very first thing they do is provide country-by-country visa guidance. They basically take ownership of the paperwork process right then and there.
Okay, I hear that, and I understand the appeal of a warm welcome, but I have to push back a little bit here.
Okay, go for it.
We are talking about young adults, right?
Yeah.
People who are enrolling to get a Master of Business Administration, an MBA, or a BBA.
Yeah.
In the real corporate world, your boss isn't going to sit down and fill out your HR tax forms for you.
Well, no, of course not.
Right, so isn't this just a bit too much hand-holding? Shouldn't navigating a foreign bureaucracy be part of growing up and, entering the cutthroat business world?
It is a totally fair pushback, and honestly, it's a really common corporate mindset, the whole idea of trial by fire. But we have to look at the actual psychology at play here. What's fascinating here is the concept of cognitive load.
Cognitive load. Okay, break that down.
So when you are moving 4,000 kilometers away from your home to a place where you literally don't know the systems, your cognitive load is absolutely maxed out.
You're just trying to survive.
Right. Your brain is dedicating so much processing power just to basic survival, like where do I sleep? Am I legally allowed to be here? And because of that, the prefrontal cortex literally has less capacity to absorb complex academic information.
Wow. So you're saying that by letting them struggle with the paperwork, universities are actively sabotaging their own students' ability to learn.
Exactly. Foundational stability is not the same thing as academic coddling. So VFSTR doesn't just help with visas before they arrive. Within the first 48 hours of a student physically arriving on campus, this dedicated team handles their FRO registration.
The Foreigners Regional Registration Office stuff.
Yes, which is a notoriously complex bureaucratic hurdle in India. But they also immediately open a local bank account for the student. They get them a local SIM card so they can actually call home. They register them with the campus medical center.
They are completely removing the administrative panic, just wiping it out.
Precisely. They absorb the bureaucratic friction so the student can preserve their mental energy for the actual rigor of the management program.
That makes total sense when you frame it around cognitive load. And, there is this one highly specific detail in the interview that really stuck with me regarding their arrival.
Oh, the airport pickup.
Yes. When these students get off the plane, whether it's at Vijayawada Airport, which is like a 30-minute drive, or Hyderabad Airport, which is this massive international hub 3 hours away,
Right.
they aren't just emailed a PDF of a bus schedule. The university physically sends a representative to stand at the arrivals gate, holding a physical board with the student-specific name on it.
And that is not just a polite gesture. The dean herself notes that when you are in your first hour in a new country, carrying literally everything you own in a couple of suitcases.
Yeah, the stress of that is insane.
Exactly. And you are surrounded by a language you might still be learning. Seeing a familiar face and your own name on a board isn't just a free ride to campus. It is the fundamental beginning of trust between the institution and the individual.
The beginning of trust. I really love that phrasing. But building trust at an airport arrivals gate is one thing. Maintaining that trust when the student unpacks their bags and, hits their first bout of homesickness and actually has to live there, that is a completely different ballgame.
Oh, absolutely.
So how does this university sustain that feeling once the student is on campus?
Well, it requires a massive shift in how you design physical spaces, and that leads us to their purpose-built international hostel. The distinction they make here is really vital. They didn't just build a luxury hotel to attract foreign tuition money. It is about deeply thoughtful design that recognizes the very specific granular needs of a student from, say, Nigeria or Yemen.
Right. Like they have halal food available daily. They have dedicated specialized prayer facilities.
Yeah, which is huge for daily life.
And they maintain 24-hour security, which Dean Sharada points out is a massive deal for parents who are sending their kids across the globe. They ensure high-speed Wi-Fi, too, because when your family is continents away, a strong internet connection isn't a luxury. It is an absolute psychological lifeline.
And out of all those architectural choices, one of the most impactful is actually the inclusion of self-cooking kitchens.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting for me, because self-cooking kitchens sound like an afterthought, right? But it speaks to a much deeper philosophy.
Totally.
So many companies and universities today practice what I would call accommodation. And to accommodate basically just means we will tolerate you. We will make just enough space for you so you don't complain to HR.
Right, it's doing the bare minimum.
Exactly. But VFSTR practices celebration. That mindset says your culture actually makes us richer.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can really see the difference between performative diversity, which is just, taking a photo of international students for a marketing brochure.
Oh, we see that everywhere.
Everywhere. But it's different from creating a daily lived culture of inclusion. And the most perfect spatial representation of this mindset is where Professor Sharada actually put her desk. She chose to put the dean's office physically adjacent to the international hostel.
She specifically designed it so students can just knock on a real wooden door if something goes wrong. They don't have to log into some sterile web portal and submit an IT ticket just to speak to a human being. They just walk next door.
It completely shatters institutional barriers, and that culture of celebration you mentioned earlier, it is most visible in their annual International Cultural Festival.
Oh man, the food descriptions in the article.
Right. The university doesn't just throw up a few flags and call it a day. They actively fund and support the granular traditions of these micro-communities.
The details from the text on this are incredible. You have students from Yemen making traditional masub and fasa.
Yeah.
And right next to them, students from Nigeria are cooking jollof rice and playing Yoruba drums. You have Nepalese students showcasing intricate danka paintings and making momos.
It sounds amazing.
It is a massive, full-day event attended by the entire university. And they don't stop there. They formally celebrate National Independence Days for every major student community. Yemen, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria. They celebrate Eid and invite all the Indian students to join. They celebrate Diwali. They celebrate Christmas.
And we have to remember that sense of belonging is buttressed by an incredibly smooth administrative backend that the students rarely even see.
Right, the stuff happening behind closed doors.
Exactly. Many of these students, particularly those from Yemen, Afghanistan, and various African nations, are on complex government sponsorships.
Which, I mean, if you've ever dealt with international government scholarships, you know is usually an absolute nightmare of red tape for the student.
Precisely. But VFSTR has established direct institutional relationships with those foreign ministries and scholarship bodies. The university handles the progress reports, they flag academic concerns proactively, directly to the sponsors, and they work to keep the students' record clean. They just manage all the bureaucracy seamlessly behind the scenes.
So if we tie this back to Maslow's hierarchy again, the physiological needs are met, the safety needs are met, the belonging needs are met. The baseline of anxiety is essentially zero.
Which is the goal.
Right. And because they've built this absolute fortress of psychological safety, the university earns the right to push these students incredibly hard academically. That transition takes us from the comfort of the international hostel straight into what they call the boardroom phase.
That is the crucial pivot. You can only demand rigorous academic performance if you have provided that foundation of stability. And the academic framework they throw these students into is entirely robust.
It really is. The source mentions the degrees are UGC approved, NBA accredited, and NIRF ranked. For you listening who might not be familiar with the Indian education system, what do those acronyms actually mean for an international student?
Well, it really boils down to global legitimacy. NBA accreditation, for instance, is essentially the gold standard in India that ensures a degree carries legal equivalence globally.
Okay, so it translates well.
Yes. So if a student from Lagos earns their MBA at VFSTR, that accreditation guarantees their degree is legally recognized when they return to Nigeria, or if they apply for a job in London. It's not just a piece of paper, it's a globally portable asset.
That makes a ton of sense. So the BBA is a 3-year pathway. The MBA is a 2-year program with specialized sectoral electives.
Yeah.
But instead of just listing the coursework, we really need to talk about where the magic happens, the business communication lab.
Yes, this is a highly specialized environment. It is far from your standard university classroom with, like, a whiteboard and a projector.
It's basically a high-pressure flight simulator, but for corporate life.
That's a great way to put it.
They take these students and put them into AV-recorded, simulated boardrooms. They force them to execute client pitches, manage group discussions, and run through crisis communication role plays. And because it's recorded on audio and video, the student and the faculty can review the tape together.
Exactly like professional athletes reviewing game footage to spot their weak points.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And what's really unique is that they run specific modules for international students on how to navigate high context versus low context cultural differences in corporate meetings.
Okay, wait, let's pause there because that is a really fascinating sociological concept.
Yeah.
How does that actually play out in a simulated boardroom?
Well, think about it this way. In a high context culture, which includes many parts of the Middle East, Asia, and Africa, communication is heavily reliant on reading the room.
Right, nonverbal cues.
Yes, understanding subtle body language and maintaining group harmony. It's all about saving face. But in a low-context culture, like parts of Western Europe or the U.S., communication is highly explicit. It's blunt, direct, and just focused on the numbers.
Ah, I see. So if a student from a high-context background is managing a simulated meeting and tries to gently suggest an operational flaw to, save someone's feelings, a low-context European manager might completely miss the point.
Exactly. They would just blow right past it. So the lab forces them to practice translating their communication style under pressure until navigating those cultural landmines just becomes natural, unconscious competence.
But this raises an important question, right?
Yep.
A simulated boardroom is excellent for skill development and confidence, but an MBA is ultimately a financial investment in employability. How does all of this boardroom simulation translate to tangible career outcomes?
The translation to career outcomes is incredibly direct, and a huge part of that ROI comes down to their foreign language program. They offer extensive training in French, German, Mandarin Chinese, Japanese, and Arabic.
But to be clear, they aren't just teaching conversational phrasing so you can, order coffee on a vacation.
No. The curriculum is entirely business functional. As the dean noted, students aren't just memorizing abstract verb conjugations. They are learning contract language. They are learning negotiation vocabulary.
That's so practical.
They're learning how to formally close a commercial deal in that target language.
And the proof is in the placement data, really. The interview highlights that MBA graduates who achieve even a B1 level certification in one of those foreign languages see a 15 to 20% salary premium compared to peers who only speak English.
A 20% bump. That's huge.
It is. They are getting snapped up for lucrative roles in global procurement and cross-border consulting by European multinationals operating in India. And Gulf region employers are actively hunting for Arabic proficient management grads who hold Indian MBA credentials.
It is a brilliant strategic alignment of the curriculum with actual global market demands. And that professional training doesn't just stop at the business communication lab either. They have an entire ecosystem of what they call professional labs.
Right, like the trading one.
Yeah, they have a National Stock Exchange Skill Development Center for live, real-time trading simulations. They have a digital marketing lab that operates like a contemporary agency command center using real Google Ads environments and live SEO analytics.
So these students aren't just reading textbook theories about capital markets or digital marketing funnels. They are actively operating inside them, making real-time decisions long before they ever graduate.
Exactly.
But that brings us to the ultimate test. A simulation, no matter how good, is still a simulation. How does VFSTR ensure these students don't completely crash when they face the unforgiving reality of the actual job market?
That is where they introduce the final phase of the student journey, the Launchpad. This phase relies entirely on pushing students out of the campus bubble through embedded internships and applied capstone projects.
Now, at a lot of universities, an internship is just an optional summer add-on, or a box to check.
Yeah, just busy work.
Right. But at VFSTR, internships are structurally embedded into the core of the BBA and MBA journeys. They are paid, they are performance-oriented, and they are rigorously project-driven.
You aren't just there to fetch coffee and make photocopies. You are doing actual market research, running operational optimizations, and conducting real financial analysis.
Yeah.
And for an international student, these internships act as the vital bridge to understanding the nuances of Indian and multinational corporate culture in the real world, like how reporting systems actually work, or how teams practically communicate when real money is on the line.
And their approach to the capstone project follows the exact same logic. It's not just a compilation of academic articles you read in the library. It is real, applied research where the student partners with an actual company to solve a live managerial problem.
But I do have a genuine question for you about this final Launchpad phase. The source talks a lot about their campus incubator.
Oh, yes.
If you are an international student and you spent all this money on a management degree, why on earth would you spend your time hanging around a startup incubator instead of just hunting for a safe, secure, well-paying corporate job?
It's a great question, and the answer lies in what the Vinyan Technology Business Incubator, or VTBI, actually focuses on. It is a premier incubator supported by the Indian government's Department of Science and Technology.
Okay.
And its core focus areas are agritech, biotech, renewable energy, and waste management. Now, if you look at the student demographic we've been discussing, for an MBA student from Nigeria, agricultural supply chain issues are not abstract textbook theories.
Right.
For a student from Nepal, gaps in renewable energy infrastructure are everyday realities.
I see. So they aren't forcing foreign talent to conform to local Indian problems. The VTBI is giving them the prototyping labs, the funding avenues, and the mentorship to build actual solutions to the specific problems native to their own backgrounds.
Precisely. These are personal, actionable problems. And the true genius of the VFSTR structure is that the corporate placement pathway and the entrepreneurship pathway run in parallel.
They happen at the same time.
Yes, they are not mutually exclusive. A student could theoretically graduate with a highly lucrative job offer from a multinational in Dubai and possess a fully validated, prototype-backed business plan for an agritech startup to eventually take back home.
That is an unbelievable competitive advantage. And, speaking of Dubai, the university doesn't just wave goodbye at graduation and hope for the best.
Right, they don't just cut ties.
No, they actively maintain placement relationships with GCC companies across the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait. They facilitate connections with employers in East Africa and Southeast Asia. And if an international student decides they want to stay and build a career in India, the university provides full post-study visa transition support. They literally cover every possible exit strategy.
They ensure global career outcomes, which, if you think about it, is the ultimate fulfillment of the promise they made to that student back on day one at the airport.
To bring this entire narrative full circle, I want to go back to the source text and look at Professor Sharada Alameni, the dean.
Oh, the phone calls.
Yes. The profile interview actually opens and closes with her phone ringing. It is 9 a.m. on a Wednesday, and her phone has already rung 4 times.
Wow.
It's a parent in Sandan calling to ask about the exam schedule. It's the placement office calling about an upcoming recruitment drive. It's a newly arriving student at the Hyderabad airport just making sure someone is actually coming to get them.
And the text notes that she had already checked twice that morning to make sure a driver was physically en route.
Exactly. And then at the very end of the interview, as the reporter is wrapping up, her phone rings yet again. It's a +967 number,
Right.
Yemen. She apologizes to the interviewer, answers the phone in smooth Arabic, and in exactly 90 seconds, she confirms an arrival date, arranges a hostel check-in, and relays the flight details to a campus driver. She hangs up the phone, looks at the reporter, and just smiles. She says it's her 7th call this morning, and she simply says, "Good."
It is such a powerful image of perpetual, deliberate availability.
So what does this all mean? When you strip away the high-tech trading labs, the global accreditations, and the massive cultural festivals, VFSTR's ultimate competitive advantage is incredibly simple, yet incredibly rare. They just refuse to let a single student feel invisible.
And that is the exact challenge I would pose to you, listening right now. Look at your own organizations, look at your own corporate teams, look at your own onboarding processes.
Yeah, how do you handle newcomers?
Exactly. When someone new enters your ecosystem, are you just processing them through a bureaucratic system? Or are you actively scaffolding them for long-term success? Are you merely accommodating them, or are you celebrating them?
That is the ultimate question. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day. We live in an increasingly digital, hyper-optimized, AI-driven world.
Very true.
Education and corporate onboarding are so often being reduced to sterile online video modules, automated welcome emails, and AI chatbots that answer our basic questions. In a future that looks like that, could it be that the most disruptive, futuristic innovation in global education isn't a new piece of software at all? Could the ultimate disruption simply be radical human empathy and a real, living person waiting for you at the arrivals gate, holding a board with your name on it?
It is a profound thought to end on. Sometimes the most advanced, effective solution is just the most deeply human one.
Think about it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.